So welcome to Geotab's Extend session on multinational solutions, trends, and opportunities. We are so excited that you joined us here today, hopefully from all over the world. And today I'm very enthusiastic because we are speaking with Willem Dive, CEO of Move, which is a Geotab partner which specializes in supporting international customers across Europe. And he's joining us today, in fact, from the Netherlands. So Willem, thank you so much for joining us at Extend today, even though it's late your time. Can you tell us a little bit about your involvement with customers and their international fleets?
Well, thank you, Heidi, and
Yeah.
thanks for having me. So, just a little bit about myself. I started my career in GE in 1998, and since then I've had various leadership positions across the globe and across different divisions. The noteworthy is that I've been the managing director for GE Asset Intelligence here in Europe. That was GE's telematics business, if you want, for commercial transportation. So that's where I had my first exposure into global fleets. I then moved on to become the CMO of GE Tip Trailer Services, which is Europe's, Canada's, and Australia's largest trailer leasing company. And within that capacity, I actually started a new venture, which is basically an Airbnb platform for transport and logistics equipment that is not being used, and that was a world's first. So we were servicing across my career clients like DHL, Schenker, large global fleets. So how about yourself, Heidi? I think you have some experience in global fleets as well, right?
Yeah, a little bit. So, in fact, I started working for PHH, which is now called Element, back in 2006, Willem. And at that time, and still are, partnering with Arval, it was just when global was starting to get a little exciting for fleets. So prior to that, there wasn't a whole lot of international activity. But 2006, things started to get very interesting. And then at that time, fleet managers started to take notice of one another in different parts of the globe. So they started talking to their fleet counterparts in Europe and in LATAM, Asia Pacific even. And they started best practice sharing and having international meetings. And then in 2010, that's really when global events started hitting the scene. And in fact, I like to joke with my friend John Domowski, which some people on the call might know today, that global fleet managers, and he's one of them, started being born overnight. So you went to bed as a regional fleet manager. The next morning you woke up and you had the responsibility of the world. And so that has continued to evolve to this day. And so I think it's an interesting conversation for our listeners, Willem, especially considering Moo's expertise and, of course, Geotab's desire to continue supporting these large international customers that are moving around the globe and expanding. Tell us a little bit about how Move supports international customer goals today.
Well, actually, Move is a Geotab partner based here out of the Netherlands, and we serve customers across more than 20 European countries by now. Obviously, we serve them with data analytics solutions and insights into their fleets, helping them to improve the fleet management. We also provide sharing solutions, so think about keyless, so taking fleets that are owned today, actually getting them shared into their organizations. We really help them to meet their global goals. So think about decreasing cost, think about increasing sustainability, think about increasing safety as well as optimizing their fleet's activity. So we use the Geotab solution for that, and we incorporate that into our own for that. Now, what's interesting as well is that Move is part of the Autobin Group here in the Netherlands.
Right.
Autobin Group is a family-owned business for more than a century already, and is one of Europe's top 20 mobility organizations. So Autobin focuses on cutting-edge mobility solutions for our clients, and hence the reason why we established Move Connected Mobility as part of the Autobin Group.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about these cutting-edge mobility solutions, especially those that are involving telematics. in my experience, and I'm sure yours potentially as well, telematics used to be leveraged really locally, or local decisions, even potentially regionally, but not so much internationally. But we've seen that changing a little bit. It'll be interesting to hear your perspective as well. But with the continued globalization of fleet that we talked about earlier, coupled with success in some of those basic telematics goals, safety. So we're seeing a lot of success in decreasing accidents, increasing total cost of ownership. So there's success. So, as we talked about shared perspectives internationally, we're starting to see opportunity to share that success around the globe from one region to the next, as well as the opportunity to reach new exciting goals, EVs, car sharing, etc. So we're starting to see this local decision for telematics evolve into more of a global decision. So I wanted to share with you, Willem, and with our audience today, obviously, some of the trends that we're seeing in international deployment that relate to this. And I, of course, want to give full credit to our friends at Global Fleet, because the information that you're going to see right now is from the survey. They've now conducted the survey, as you know, Willem, for 2 years in a row, 2019 and then 2020 again, and the results are consistent. Over 1 million vehicles first were represented in this survey. The average fleet size, so these are large fleets, would be interesting to know if the people that are joining us today have similar fleet size, but we're talking about 9,000 plus units internationally. We had 110 respondents across 38 countries. So this is a really nice large sampling of various fleet managers that are really dealing with an international fleet, right? And trying to drive these goals that you see below here. So you'll notice, obviously, global cost reduction. 66% of global fleet managers have this requirement. That's up and coming. CO2 gaps, a goal to reduce by almost 30% in that magical year of 2025. Telematics is, of course, exciting to yourself and myself as well, because in 3 years, 80% of all fleets need to have a telematics solution in place. And why? Really because of these other goals that are around us, right? This EV fleet share has to grow by 33% in 2025. And I think what really wraps it all up and makes it interesting, and we can kind of see how this all fits together, Willem, is this global fleet team focus. And maybe you've seen this as well with your interactions with customers, is not only are we talking to procurement internationally for fleet and telematics, but we're talking to environmental, we're talking to safety, we're talking to security. They all have these kind of goals, and at the end of the day, we see that so many of these goals really can be reached using telematics, and I like to use this word, gateway. So once you sort of have that telematics in place, away you go to get your global cost reduction, away you go to meet your CO2 cap goals, your EVs. And I think we can talk about that a little bit more, Willem. Sustainability goals, we kind of understand that this is interesting. This is really marching down for 2025. But I was hoping you had some customer stories about global deployment and how some of these goals are being reached in actuality by using telematics as that gateway. Can you share a few examples with us?
Yeah, sure, Heidi. Most of these customer requests are actually multidimensional.
Okay.
So let's walk through a couple of examples and see if our attendees can relate to some of these goals. Okay?
Great.
So the first example that I wanted to show you here is a large fleet. And we deploy around 1,000 of their vehicles across 35 countries. So that in itself is
Wow.
very complex, right?
Yeah.
And what is interesting here is, in tying it back to the fleet team goals that you presented, this company is very much purpose driven, and they are very much caring about their employees and just want to make sure that when they go around that they are safe and secure.
Right.
So they really focus on this safety element that you touched upon a minute ago. So they're monitoring speeding and driving behavior to ensure that, and helping their employees to stay safe. Now, what is interesting as well is that, this is a global fleet. They have this multinational approach, but obviously then in country by country basis, you need to make sure that that is actually being worked with and actualized within those countries. So the solution we provide, I think very interesting here is the in-cab voice feedback. So see it as coaching, basically. Yeah? So the employees are driving around, and as soon as they go too fast, they're speeding, the voice comes up and alerts them to it. So obviously we have a driver ID in there with the NFC reader, so that we also know who is inside. And with active tracking, then the fleet manager can get a total score and get a good grips on how they're evolving and if they're actually improving on safety. So yeah, very good example, I would say, of this global team goal of safety.
And would you say, Will, and this is an example of where an organization has seen a benefit in using telematics as a gateway in one region, and then that has then been shared as a best practice to expand into additional regions?
Oh yeah, definitely. We just started deploying with this fleet, and already now, because of what they see, they're asking us if we can expand into other areas, even outside of Europe. So
Yeah.
the gain is there right from the start, and it triggers them to deploy even faster around their global fleet. Definitely.
That's great. Cool. And did you have another example as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the other example ties back into your fleet goals around cost. The first one that you presented. So this customer, think about last mile delivery, but then in the B2B environment. So bringing fresh produce to hospitals, offices, universities, etc. And they deploy a global fleet. We are deploying or have deployed already 750 units across 18 different countries. And interesting here is that they also are very much focused on this driving behavior, but now with the purpose of influencing actually fuel efficiency. So it's very much cost oriented. So same trigger, same metric around driving behavior, but now for a different purpose, but still within the team goals that you presented earlier.
Yeah.
Now, what we have done here as well, Heidi, is we actually sat down with the customer as we have lived through the crisis, and we're still in this corona crisis. You can understand if you're in last mile delivery for B2B, then especially in those offices, things have slowed down, right? So we've helped them there actually to turn down the solution that we provide to them, but also by helping them to build a business case on how to even get more value out of the solution that they already have. So think about setting the objectives, knowing what to measure against those objectives, and then actually make that tangible. And very good results that we're seeing. So very happy to share that with you today.
No, that's great. So it's more of that kind of like that idea of the telematics plus. So you've got the data, but then the opportunity to turn that into actionable results for the customer at the end of the day.
Exactly.
So let's talk a little bit to our customers that are attending today about what that looks like to deploy multinationally. Because, even in recent conversations that you and I had together with customers, we had one recently where there's a lot of excitement around the telematics solution. And there's a lot of excitement about what it could do down the road from now, right? But the idea and the mindset of this particular customer that you and I both worked with is that let's get the telematics in, let's get the gateway begun, let's get it started. And then as we see success in one area, we can build, right? We can add EVs, and then we can add embedded, and then we can reach our CO2 cap goals. Then we can consider other alternatives. But once we have the data in there, then we can take it to the next level, right? So let's say we have customers on the phone. I'm sure there are some that are thinking, okay, yes, these are some goals that I can resonate with, and I need to get started. I need to get this gateway initiated. So, talk to us a little bit, Will, about what that looks like so that it's very successful and that the gateway actually does lead to reaching these new goals.
So first of all, as you know, it's important to know your fleet, right? Not only in your country of readiness, but internationally. So what data do you have access to now, and what do you still need access to in the future, right? So think about the connected fleet here. For instance, we're dealing with one customer here in the Netherlands right now that just by having the insight on their fleet, they already start looking at, okay, but is our setup in how we deliver to our customers, is that actually correct? Should we have our depots maybe placed differently? Or how does the operation fit in there, right? So just by having this, I like to call it a kind of the Google Glass all of a sudden on his fleet, triggers a lot of new questions on the actual whereabouts and how they should set up their organization and their infrastructure. So that's an example, right? So and then are your countries ready to deploy a telematics solution? And which ones are more ready, and which ones may need some more time to learn about the benefits from other participating countries?
Right.
So if you want, Heidi, I'll give you an example here. A recent client that we're both working on asked us to do a pilot close to where they have their head office in Europe, because it's easy and manageable for them to see how things actually work, right? But they also want us to do a pilot in Germany, and the reason for that is because it's not an easy country to start a pilot, right? There's much stricter labor unions, labor laws, data privacy concerns, and all of that needs to be dealt with. And our clients obviously want to have a first experience with that before they feel comfortable in deploying across the globe, basically.
That makes sense.
And then ensure you put a deployment strategy together, right? One that focuses on specific goals that can be expanded as the solution grows. And secondly, that incorporates at the beginning countries where it will be easier to deploy. Yeah? So in my example that I just gave. And then I think it's, share notes. What resource do you have across borders? Get the buy-in. Make sure that all the stakeholders in your organization are aware upfront, are consulted and informed before you start to embark on a big project like this. And this is obviously where Move helps and guides our customers in actually doing so.
Yeah, and obviously, Willem, it's important to get that executive buy-in, but then do you also feel that it's important to get local countries buy-in as well, and understanding the importance of such a project and how it's going to help them reach their local goals as well?
Exactly that, Heidi.
Thank you so much. And so at the end here, we wanted to make sure we talked a little bit about the trends. We talked a little bit about the global opportunities and how you might consider deploying an international solution. We wanted to talk a little bit as well about Move and what Move is doing into the future. Can you talk to us a little bit about that, Willem?
Yeah, no, please, Heidi.
Great.
I'd love to. So I think, we're expanding, right? We're growing with our customers, and where they grow, we make sure that we are able to follow. And like I said, we're already dealing with clients over more than 20 countries, and with recent additions of certain clients that will rapidly extend to 35. So our setup is good for that. Yeah. But what I wanted to share today is, another way of looking at how to enable to reach those global goals for our customers, even bigger, better, more dramatic, if you want, Heidi. So if you bring up the slide where we can see this ecosystem, okay?
Yes.
So what we want to do here is we already have our clients with their fleets connected, and we're helping them to manage their fleets towards those goals that we just talked about, right? But what we want to do now is to take it one step further and to say, okay, but we have already this fleet connected. Can we now also connect this fleet into the ecosystem that this fleet is operating in? And because our clients, if you put them in the center of this, they all have contract with a lessor. They all have a contract with insurance companies. They have someone, if it's an OEM or a dealer, taking care of their maintenance and repair services. But today, we see with our clients is when they have these connected vehicles, they still have to take that information from us and then go towards those different stakeholders to alert them that certain things need to happen. So why wouldn't we take this approach of, if you see this as a platform, that the connected vehicle starts to get a voice, and it starts to talk to the OEMs and the dealers directly that they need maintenance, right? According to the contract that the client has with this particular OEM, right? And if it then has gone for maintenance, when do I actually get it back? And what has been done? Is that going to be added as another data label to the vehicle register of that client? And if
Right.
that's so, right, then you can start to think then, okay, then that could be brought to the insurance companies. Like, hey, we can now show you that we have a better grip on the fleet. Maintenance and repair costs are coming down because of it. Would only be logical that the insurance company would also now tailor their insurance policy towards that and start providing those benefits back to the client as well.
So really leveraging data across, all these different elements of business that touch fleet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now I like to call this larger than life, right? We're on a mission, but if you ask me, where's the future of Move? Whereas the future of connected vehicles in general, I would say give them a life within the ecosystem that they operate, and not only for which client they actually, in which client organization they operate. And we hear that the recent discussions that we've had with some of the clients that we collaborated on together, they start to resonate on this, and they start to talk about it. Like you said earlier, just get us started, get us connected, and then, help us and work with us to get us connected into this ecosystem.
Right. Well, it's exciting. Well, we're excited to see what Move does next.
And what about Geotab, Heidi? Because I'm sure that Geotab has a future ahead of them.
Absolutely. And I'll just sum it up to say that, we're, like Move, we're recognizing the trends we talked about earlier in our chat. Our customers are moving internationally with telematics, and we're excited to see that because we're really excited to help support those international goals. So we're in 80 plus countries, but we're going way beyond that. Continuing to provide, that one hardware, one platform to look at this data, to leverage it, to help support their goals. And I talk more about, smart solutions. Telematics Plus, we talked about this gateway. The telematics and that piece of it is about getting that data, but there's so much more to do with it. So EVs, big data. And also I think the exciting thing to notice our maturing international network, such as partners such as Move, marketplace partners. We're all looking to how we can support you, customer, with your international and multinational goals and growth. I think one of the exciting pieces too is we recognize the need for support for these complex solutions. So providing our customers with a global team that supports partners like you as you help them reach those goals we identified today. So exciting things. I know that we're running low, in fact, maybe a little bit over on time. So we wanted to thank you so much for, on my part, thank you for joining us today. I'm sure Willem would have the same sentiments. We're excited to talk together and talk with you. And please, if you have questions beyond the Q&A today, which is following up just now for 10 minutes, we'll have a little chat room and you can ask us some more questions. Please send us an email and we would be happy to discuss anything having to do with what we discussed today. Willem, anything from your side?
No, thank you so much, Heidi. Thanks for having me, and I'm looking forward
Absolutely.
to dialogue with the people in the chat.
It was a pleasure. Thank you all to you who joined us today. Thank you for joining Extend, and thank you for sitting in our session on multinational data solutions, trends, and opportunities. Hope to talk to you very soon in the Q&A.